You know, most folks my age would hung up their hat decades ago, sitting on a porch somewhere watching the world go by. Not me. At 93, I'm still making movies, still earning and sitting on a fortune worth $375 million. While everyone's waiting to die, I'm figuring out how to live. The question isn't whether you feel lucky. The question is, are you willing to do what it takes? Because in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how I built my empire and the principles that can help you build yours, no matter your age. By minute 7, you'll understand how rejection can be your greatest asset. Stick around until the 15-minute mark, where I'll reveal the unconventional decision-making system that saved me millions. And unlike those Hollywood types who talk more than they deliver, I'm going to give it to you straight. No fancy words, no sugarcoating. I was born during the Great Depression with nothing. If I can build this kind of wealth into my 90s, what's your excuse? Here's what we're covering today. First, we'll look at my early days, how getting fired and rejected shaped my future success. At the 10-minute mark, I'll break down the million-dollar minimalism approach I use in business and life. Around minute 13, we'll explore how saying no made me more money than saying yes. By minute 16, you'll learn my one-take philosophy that saved productions millions while delivering better results. And finally, I'll show you how to apply these principles to your own life, whether you're 25 or 85. Let's get started. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. Far from it. Depression-era kid. My family moved around so much I barely remember having a home. Father took odd jobs up and down the West Coast just to keep food on the table. That kind of upbringing teaches you something money can't buy: resilience. When you've got nothing to lose. That's freedom most people never understand. You think I started as a star? Universal Studios hired me at $75 a week in 1954. Then they fired me. Said I had an Adam's apple that stuck out too far. Said I talked through my teeth. Called my acting stiff. Now most people would quit right there. Gone back to digging swimming pools or loading lumber, jobs I did before acting. But here's what separates the wealthy from the wishful. Rejection is information, not a stop sign. Getting fired was the best thing that happened to me. Forced me to reinvent myself, to find my own path. If you're taking notes, write this down. Your greatest setback is usually the setup for your biggest comeback. That's not just some fortune cookie wisdom, it's economics. When Universal fired me, I didn't have the luxury of feeling sorry for myself. I needed to eat. So I took a role in a TV Western called Rawhide. Not glamorous. 8 years of dusty trails and cattle drives. But it put food on the table and taught me the business. Remember when I mentioned most people my age are sitting on porches? Well, at 33, I was still an unknown TV actor who most Hollywood bigwigs thought didn't have what it takes. If that lesson on turning rejection into opportunity was helpful to you, hit that like button so more people can discover this approach. Because unlike what they'll tell you in those $5,000 seminars, real success isn't about avoiding failure, it's about using it. Now, here's where things get interesting. 1964, I'm offered a role in some low-budget Italian Western, $15,000 for 3 movies. My agent said don't do it, said it would ruin my career, but I saw something others didn't. I asked myself one question: what's the worst that could happen? If the movie tanked, nobody in America would see it anyway. If it worked, I'd have a foot in the film industry. So I flew to Italy and made a fistful of dollars with Leone. Didn't speak the language, didn't know the crew, but I understood the character, a man of few words who let his actions speak. That movie changed everything. Not overnight, don't believe anyone who tells you success happens overnight. But it positioned me, created a persona that audiences connected with. Here's the wealth principle. Sometimes the biggest opportunities look like the smallest paychecks. The question isn't how much does it pay now, but where can it lead? I've kept records of every dollar I've earned since those days. That $15,000 Italian job, it eventually led to projects that earned me millions. But I had to see the long game. Most people are playing checkers with their careers when they should be playing chess. They're looking for the quick jump instead of the strategic position. Let me be clear, I'm not saying work for free. I'm saying evaluate opportunities based on where they can take you, not just what they pay today. That's how you build sustainable wealth. But taking that role was just the beginning. The real money didn't start flowing until I made a decision that went against everything Hollywood preaches. We'll get to that after I tell you about what happened in 1968 that could have ended everything before it really began. 1968. I'm flying in an AD bomber, military surplus plane. Pilot says we're running low on fuel. Next thing I know, we're going down in the Pacific, crashed into shark-infested waters, had to swim nearly 2 miles to shore. That's not a metaphor, that's what happened. Most people don't face that kind of situation in their lives. But everyone faces their own version of a crash, a business failure, a financial crisis, a health scare. What separates those who build wealth from those who don't isn't avoiding crashes, it's how you respond when they happen. Remember when I talked about rejection being information? Well, nearly drowning teaches you something too. It teaches you that most problems aren't worth worrying about. It clarifies what matters. After that crash, I approached every project, every investment, every decision with a simple question. Is this worth dying for? Usually, the answer is no. And that frees you to make clear-headed decisions without the emotional baggage most people carry. That's why I've never chased trends, never tried to be what others wanted. The plane crash gave me perspective that translated directly into dollars. When you're not afraid of failure or even death, you make better financial decisions. You don't panic sell investments. You don't take bad deals out of fear. You don't waste energy on things that don't matter. I've written down every major financial decision I've made since 1970. The best ones came when I was calm, focused, and unattached to the outcome. The worst ones came when I was reactive. If you found value in this perspective so far, take a second to subscribe. Unlike most YouTube channels, I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to show you what works. But survival isn't enough if you want to build real wealth. You need to understand the power of saying no, which is exactly what I did when Hollywood came calling with roles that would have made me rich but cost me everything else. Most people think wealth comes from saying yes to opportunities. Sometimes that's true. But the real money, that comes from saying no to the wrong ones. Did you know I turned down playing Superman, turned down James Bond, said no to Apocalypse Now? Each of those roles would have paid millions, but they weren't right for me. Instead, I chose roles and projects that fit who I was. That decision has been worth hundreds of millions over my career. Here's what they don't teach you about wealth. It's not what you earn, it's what you keep. And it's not just about money, it's about time and energy too. Every yes costs you something. Every project, every investment, every commitment takes time you can't get back. When you say yes to the wrong things, you're saying no to the right ones. I built my fortune by being selective, by understanding my strengths, by focusing on projects where I could add unique value, whether as an actor, director, or producer. Let me give you an example. In 1971, I directed my first film, Play Misty for Me. Studio wanted to give it to a veteran director, offered me more money to just act in it, but I saw an opportunity to control my destiny. That decision, saying no to the bigger paycheck and yes to the directing role, eventually led to Unforgiven, $1 Million Baby, and dozens of other films where I had creative control and a bigger piece of the profits. Now, I'm not suggesting you turn down good money. What I am saying is evaluate opportunities based on where they lead, not just what they pay. The real wealth comes from ownership, not employment. Like that plane crash taught me, life's too short for the wrong projects. When you focus only on what truly matters, you make better decisions. Better decisions lead to better results. Better results lead to more wealth. And speaking of results, let's talk about how I've managed to stay productive well into my 90s while others my age retired decades ago. In Hollywood, most directors shoot dozens of takes for a single scene. Wastes time, wastes money, wastes energy. I've always done things differently. On my sets, we typically do one take, maybe two if something goes wrong. People think that's just my directing style. It's not. It's my life philosophy. Get it right the first time. Be prepared. Don't waste resources, including time. That approach has saved my productions millions of dollars. Films that would cost others $100 million, I bring in for $30 million. Movies that would take others 100 days to shoot, I finish in 40. But this isn't just about making movies, it's about how you approach everything. Most people spend their lives in endless preparation, endless revision, endless worry about getting things perfect. Perfection is expensive. Excellence is profitable. Look at these numbers. My films consistently come in under budget and overperform at the box office. Not because they're perfect, but because they're authentic. They deliver what they promise without wasted motion. Apply that to your own finances. How much money are you wasting trying to be perfect? How many opportunities have you missed because you weren't ready to pull the trigger? Warren once said the difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people say no to almost everything. I'd add that they also don't waste time on things that don't matter. The one-take philosophy means making decisions with conviction, doing your homework, then executing without second-guessing yourself. That's how I've directed over 40 films. That's how I've acted in over 60. That's how I've built businesses outside of Hollywood. And that's how, at 93, I'm still working while others are just existing. But efficiency alone isn't enough. You need to understand how to leverage your unique strengths, which brings me to what might be the most important wealth principle I've discovered in 9 decades of life. Hollywood's full of actors trying to be someone else. I never did that. I found what worked for me. The squint, the whisper, the intensity, and I leaned into it. That's not just acting advice. That's wealth. Advice. Most people try to copy others' success formulas. They see someone making money in real estate, they jump into real estate. They see someone successful in tech, they try tech. But without understanding their own strengths, they're just gambling. I built my fortune by doubling down on what made me different, not fighting it, not apologizing for it, monetizing it. The characters I played, from the man with no name to Dirty Harry to in Gran Torino, they're all variations on a theme. They all leverage what I do well. Similarly, the films I direct have consistent themes: moral complexity, redemption, justice. I know what I stand for and I've built my brand around it. Your personal brand, what you're known for, is your most valuable financial asset. It's what makes people willing to pay premium for your work. It's what creates opportunities even when you're not looking for them. Remember when I talked about saying no to Superman and James Bond? That wasn't just about choosing the right projects. It was about protecting my brand, about staying authentic to what I do best. When you try to be all things to all people, you end up being nothing to anyone. But when you focus on your unique strengths, you become irreplaceable. And irreplaceable people command premium prices. If you're still watching, you understand the value of learning from experience. Take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I don't share these principles often, and I won't be around forever to share them. Now, let's talk about how all these principles come together in what I call the Wealth Framework: 5 specific steps you can take, starting today, to build your own fortune regardless of your age or starting point. I've never been one for complicated systems. Life's complicated enough. So I've distilled everything I've learned about building wealth into 5 principles anyone can apply. First, turn rejection into redirection. Every no I received led me to a better yes. When Universal fired me, it pushed me toward international films. When Hollywood typecast me, it pushed me toward directing. Don't waste energy fighting rejection. Use it as information to find your true path. Second, make decisions from a position of calm, not fear. After surviving that plane crash, I approached every decision with perspective. Ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years? If not, don't waste emotional energy on it. Third, say no more than you. Say yes. Every project, investment, or commitment has an opportunity cost. I evaluate everything against 3 criteria. Does it leverage my strengths? Does it align with my brand? Does it create long-term value? If it doesn't meet all 3, I walk away, no matter the money on the table. Fourth, execute with conviction. Do your homework, make a decision, then move forward without second-guessing. The one-take approach has saved me millions in both money and time. And fifth, build your fortune around your authentic self. Don't try to be someone else. Figure out what makes you different, then monetize that difference. Let me show you how powerful this framework can be. If you make just one better decision per month using these principles, avoiding one bad investment, saying no to one wrong opportunity, executing one project more efficiently, the compound effect over decades is enormous. Remember when I said I'm worth $375 million at 93? It didn't happen overnight. It happened through thousands of decisions guided by these principles. The beautiful thing, age is an advantage in this framework. The older you get, the more perspective you have. The clearer your decision-making becomes. The more you know what works for you. Now I'm not promising you'll make hundreds of millions. That's not the point. The point is that these principles work at any scale, whether you're trying to make your first million or your 100th. They work whether you're in entertainment, business, or any other field. They work whether you're 20 or 90. The question is, are you willing to apply them consistently, even when it's difficult? Are you willing to take the long view? Let's get practical. How do you apply these principles starting today? First, audit your current commitments. What are you saying yes to that you should be saying no to? What opportunities are you pursuing that don't align with your strengths? Make 3 columns. Things that leverage your strengths, things that align with your authentic self, and things that create long-term value. If a commitment doesn't hit all 3 columns, develop an exit strategy. Second, identify your rejection patterns. What doors have closed in your life that might be redirecting you to better opportunities? Often, your greatest setbacks are pointing you toward your greatest strengths. Third, practice the one-take philosophy. Pick one project or decision you've been overthinking. Do your homework, make the call, and move forward without looking back. Fourth, clarify your personal brand. What are you known for? What do you do better than most people? How can you double down on that difference? And finally, develop a decision-making ritual that removes emotion from the equation. Before making any significant financial choice, I take a walk, clear my head, ask myself those 3 criteria questions. The quality of your financial life is directly tied to the quality of your decisions. I've given you the framework that built my fortune. Not theory, not wishful thinking. Proven principles I've applied for over 7 decades in business. From those early days getting fired by Universal, to surviving that plane crash, to turning down iconic roles, to directing films in a single take, every step was guided by these same principles. The path to wealth isn't complicated, but it requires clarity, conviction, and consistency few people maintain over decades. At 93, people ask me why I still work, why I don't retire. The truth is, when you're doing what you're meant to do, what leverages your strengths and aligns with your authentic self, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like purpose. And purpose, more than money, is what keeps you vital as you age. I've never been one for long goodbyes or fancy summations. So I'll leave you with this. Your wealth isn't determined by your starting point. It's determined by your decisions compounded over time. I started with nothing during the Great Depression. Worked as a hay baler, a logger, a pool digger. Got fired from my first Hollywood contract. Made plenty of mistakes along the way. But I applied these principles consistently, year after year, decade after decade. Whether you're 25 or 85, the best time to start is now. The best person to learn from is yourself, and the best strategy is the one you'll actually follow. In my films, I often played men a few words, so I'll end with few. Know yourself, trust yourself, bet on yourself. The rest is just noise. If you found value in these principles, subscribe to the channel. Next week, I'll break down how I structure my investments to generate income well into my 90s. Until then, ask yourself, do you feel lucky? Well, after what I've shared today, you don't need luck, you need clarity.